geeks and comic book losers and all the smart sorts. This is for the tabletop dice rollers and poetry readers and every nerdy kid who's still repping the art forms.
Welcome to The Comic Drop, your weekly spot for comic news and new comics. I'm your host Antonio, and this is Hideo Comics in Santa Monica. Starting with Marvel this week, we have Wolverines #7 by Charles Soule with art by Christopher Anka. Now, longtime viewers of the show, well, I guess not longtime viewers, but any viewers of the show would know I love Christopher Anka's art, and that's why mainly I picked up this issue. Charles Soule's a great writer. He's actually has a few books out this week, one of which I'll be talking about soon. Wolverines is their Marvel's first weekly series, and it details the events of all of the Weapon X sort of test subjects post-Wolverine's death. And this week was mainly an introspective look at Shogun, a new character who I rather like a lot, and showing how scary Mystique can be. Personally, it wasn't my favorite pick of the week, but Christopher Anka's art made it more than worth it. Next with Marvel, we have Uncanny X-Men #31 by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Chris Bachalo. This is the end in the Charles Xavier's Last Will and Testament saga. Basically, the character Eva Bell has gone back in time and brought Professor X to the present and is now dealing with the fallout of the super-powered mutant Matthew Malloy. I have sort of been teetering off the end of this event. Brian Michael Bendis has gotten me on board and lost me time and time again with the X-Men. And this issue actually pulls it off in the end, but for the first half of it, it feels really sort of Axis Rick Remender territory, which I'm not a huge fan of, you know, sort of trumping characters' long time of characterization for the sake of the story. But the end really brings it back, and we finally get to see Cyclops do something that is not totally douchebag. So I'm really excited to see where the Uncanny X-Men go from here. Next this week from Marvel, we have the Legendary Star-Lord #9. This is part 3 of the Black Vortex event, the crossover between the Guardians of the Galaxy and the X-Men. Basically, the Black Vortex is this cosmic mirror that shows characters the ultimate version of themselves that they could be, and convinces them that they should become these versions. So the last 2 issues have mainly dealt with Catherine Pryde, or Kitty Pryde, and Star-Lord arguing over how to handle using the Black Mirror. Star-Lord all for it, Kitty Pryde against it. And this issue we realize, yeah, you should use the Black Mirror. Beast, Angel, and Gamora have all gone through it, and this one shows that they are not better for it. We also got a great glimpse last issue of all of them, you know, sort of transformed. That's not quite the reality of this issue, but it's still really cool to think about. So the event is finally moving forward in terms of plot. Still not my favorite, but it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot of comic book silliness. So other than Wolverines, Charles Soule also has She-Hulk #12 this week. This is the finale in the awesome She-Hulk run that Marvel has been doing. And it's really bittersweet. It's a great issue, but it's always sad to see a good series come to an end. And I'm hoping that we get to see She-Hulk return soon. I know that in May we have A-Force coming, and we'll see She-Hulk at least in that book, if not head that team. But we don't know if it'll be the 616 version of Jennifer Walters. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Moving right along, we have Silver Surfer #9 by Dan Slott with art by Mike Allred. This series has just been a great sort of psychedelic trip all the way through. Basically, right now, they're dealing with a planet that is all the refugees of the various planets Galactus has destroyed with his time with the Surfer. And now that a Herald of Galactus has returned, they are now in threat again. We see Silver Surfer do some truly awesome things with the Power Cosmic this issue, and it's just a lot of fun. Next, we have All New Captain America #4 by Rick Remender with art by Stuart Immonen. This series has been great from the start. Stuart Immonen's art is great for Captain Falcon, as I like to call him. You know, Sam Wilson is the new Captain America, and this issue is really cool because we get to see him act like Captain America. You know, the last 3 issues have been him sort of up against the wall, dealing with this new Hydra threat, dealing with Zemo's guys, and this issue we see him do something really truly Captain American. And so, moving forward, I hope that we see more of that. Obviously, the threat is still really prevalent, but yeah, it was a really nice sort of sweet issue. Plus, more Stuart Immonen art is always good. The last Marvel book this week is Avengers World #17. This is the story of how Cannonball found out Smasher was pregnant. And I mean, we all know, you know, how this ends and how this began because of the 8 months till time runs out stuff with Jonathan Hickman. But it's still cool to see, you know, what led to it. And we get to see one of my favorite X-Men characters, Corsair, show up. And it's always a treat to see him in a comic, so I'm just glad to see more space pirate action. Starting DC off this week, we have Batgirl #39 by Cameron Stewart with art by Babs Tarr. This is sort of the first issue of the Babs Tarr run that it really addresses all of the differences they've made in Batgirl's life. and why she isn't quite the Barbara Gordon we all knew from the prior Batgirl book. And it's pretty awesome. The last page is a big cliffhanger and quite a shocker, but we get to see more Dinah Lance in this issue, and I gotta say, I love the new Batgirl, and Babs Tarr's art is really awesome. Next from DC this week, we have Justice League number 39, written by Jeff Johns, art by Jason Fabok. This is the finale in the Amazo virus sort of event. Jeff Johns was born to write Justice League. That's as simple as it can be. Really, it's great to see him back on sort of focusing on one book after Forever Evil, and it's really great end to the Amazo virus story. Plus, we get to see Leonard Snart. I mean, okay, the thing about Leonard Snart is we all know Jeff Johns loved Captain Cold from when he was writing Wally West's Flash to, you know, as he brought Captain Cold to the Justice League, and it's just, this issue is so much fun to watch him sort of work with the heroes and kind of like it. Also this week from DC, we have Batman Eternal number 46. Last issue, Batman sort of discovered that Ra's al Ghul must be behind the ploys against Gotham and everything that's been sort of happening to him lately. And this issue, he goes to Nanda Parbat, he goes to Ra's al Ghul, and he addresses him head on, you know, why are you doing this? And Ra's al Ghul basically says, wow, you're supposed to be the world's greatest detective, and you have totally fucked up. And it's a lot of fun to see, and Batman Eternal is going to get a lot more fun as we move towards the finale, and that's all I can really say about it without spoiling much. Alright, the final book from DC this week is Multiversity number 1 Overmen versus the Freedom Fighters. So, those of you who picked up the Multiversity guidebook, this is sort of one of the first series that takes place after that, I would say. It's a one-off, or at least it seems to be a one-off, featuring the Nazi-controlled world of, to be honest, I don't remember the Earth number, but Superman is called the Overman, and he was adopted by Hitler when he landed on Earth instead of the Kents. And we get to see a whole Nazi Justice League, as well as Uncle Sam, leader of the Freedom Fighters, building a terrorist sect funded by Dr. Savannah. So obviously nothing is quite good here. But the greatest thing is that it's got Jim Lee on the art, and the first page is Hitler taking a violent shit. So if that sounds fun to you, as it did to me, pick up Multiversity number 1, Overman versus the Freedom Fighters. Moving away from the big two, you know, Marvel and DC, let's move right on to the independent comics that I like this week. So starting with Rumble number 3. This is a great new series. I don't remember the names of the writers right now, but the art by Dave Stewart is so cool. Like, that alone makes the series. Mainly because the first 2 issues, you sort of don't know what's going on. Third issue clarifies a lot. Basically, you learn the story in issue 3. There's a lot of old gods, new demons, a lot of great stuff, and, you know, everyone's favorite Scarecrow wielding a sword bigger than his body. So yeah, pick up Rumble number 3 if you like gore and fun. Moving right along, we have Manifest Destiny number 13. This is actually from the Skybound publication that Robert Kirkman owns. You might know him from a little book called The Walking Dead and another little book called Invincible. So Charles Dingus heads this book, Manifest Destiny, and it's sort of a retelling of American history with Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea as well. Basically, they were told by the president to, you know, explore the Americas before we had really moved in and take care of any dangerous natives. So what they encountered instead was half-bull minotaurs, plant zombies, giant frog creatures, and now cute little bird things. So it's just been a lot of fun to see what they encounter next and to see how they handle it, and it's just a great alternate history book. Alright, so the last Image book I want to talk about before I move on to the picks of the week is Invincible number 117. Now, if you're a fan of the podcast, you know I'm a huge fan of Invincible. I've been reading it since issue 1. I love Robert Kirkman, love Ryan Ottley's art. Anything with Mark Grayson in it, I'll read it. So Invincible number 117 deals with the sort of aftermath of Robot taking over basically the planet, and sort of what Mark Grayson and Adam Eve are going to do about it, and maybe they won't do anything at all. And we also get to see the continuation of the fight between Thrag and Battle Beast. So prepare for a lot of gore. Pick of the week comes from Marvel. This is Silk number 1 by Robbie Thompson and Stacey Lee on art. It's spinning out of the Spider-Verse series. We have one of our first spin-offs with Silk. A lot of spinning. You see a lot of that in this book too. But this is the first book sort of taking off with the new Spider characters, and it's awesome. I mean, this is just a really great book. She's a lot of fun. She's as awkward as Peter Parker was when he first started, so, you know, it's really relatable, and the art is awesome. Stacey Lee is great. So yeah, I really suggest picking this book up. You don't need to have read anything prior to Spider-Man. This is perfect for new readers. Awesome new female character. Can't recommend it enough. The second pick of the week is Bitch Planet number 3 by Kelly Sue DeConnick. I've said before how much I love this series. If you haven't picked up issue 1 and 2, I strongly suggest it. This is a great new independent series dealing with, you know, what the patriarch is, why it still is a problem, and why it still will be in the very far future. And this is a great book. It's the origin of, I believe her name is Tiny in the book, and it's really cool to see, you know, how far she's going with this sort of metaphor of sexism, and how some of it kind of isn't a metaphor and is really on the nose. And I love it. It's really great. Just pick up Bitch Planet. The final pick of the week is a new Image book called Secret Identities. Number 1 comes out this week with the story by James Farber and Brian Jones. It's a great new book about superheroes and dealing with the skeletons in their closet. You can pick it up without any prior knowledge of anything. That's the great thing about Image Comics. You don't have to have read anything prior. So really, it's great for new readers. A lot of cool superhero, supervillain analogs in it. I like the first issue a lot. Alright, so no huge bits of comic book news this week, but since I am at Heidi Ho Comics, I thought I might want to mention this Saturday, February 21st, they will have a party for the new indie comic Untamed Soul. If you want to come by, there will be a DJ, comics, music. I mean, what else can you ask for? So it's Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica. Come by this Saturday, meet the cast of their new show for HBO, and check out the comic. Thank you for tuning in again to the Comic Drop, your weekly spot for comic news and new comics. Check back next week for more of my top picks of the week and more comic news. I've been your host, Antonio, and this has been Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica. Have a great night, guys.
So listen up, here's what the core can do for you.